have you join us. Hello to all our new subscribers and a big warm welcome to everyone who's joining us for the first time. It's great to have you here. So today we're hosting a high tea. I have my mum, my aunt and my sister and a couple of my girlfriends coming over for a lovely high tea, the perfect way to spend a sunny Sunday afternoon. So we're going to talk through with you our menu and our table setting and hopefully give you some inspiration to hold a high tea. There's no need to go out and pay a lot of money at a fancy hotel when you can put a lovely one together yourself. Now what I like to do with a high tea is I actually serve three, sittings of food for our high tea. So the first one is sandwiches, and I'll talk you through the sandwiches that we're going to make in a moment. I then have, which isn't as traditional for a high tea, a selection of hot savoury food. And then we finish with our sweet cakes and our slices and our rumbles and things like that. So I do warn my guests not to eat lunch. I've got them coming over at 2 o'clock. I do give them pre-warning that there'll be a lot of food, so not to have a big lunch or have any lunch at all, because we will have all the food here. So we'll start with our sandwiches, and of course the classic high tea sandwich is cucumber sandwiches. And I've got a really easy recipe that I'm going to make. I've finally cut up one medium cucumber here so that that's ready to go. Now there's various ways you could do it. You could peel the cucumber, you could slice it, but I like having it cut up into cubes. I have then blended here 1/3 cup of mayonnaise and 250 grams of cream cheese. So I've just popped that in my mixer. I have here some garlic salt, which I'm going to put 1/4 teaspoon in of, and I've also got some dill, which I've finely cut up. And basically that's it. So it's a very easy recipe. So I'm just going to mix my cream cheese into the cucumber mixture. Now when you're selecting your bread for your high tea, remember that there's going to be a lot of really rich food. So I like to make sure I have plenty of wholemeal and multigrain bread as well as some white bread, so that you do have something that resembles something remotely healthy. Okay, so that mixture. So we're just going to mix the cream cheese through with the cucumber. As I said, this is a really easy recipe that you can make in advance. So we've mixed that in. We're going to pop in our dill, and that adds a lovely texture and flavour. The other thing to make sure when you're holding a high tea is to find out if there's any dietary requirements. So for instance, my sister's vegetarian, so I need to make sure that there's enough food that she can eat and it's not all meat. Obviously with the sweets she's okay, but I don't want to leave her just sitting there watching us eat the sandwiches. So we put in our bit of garlic salt, mix it up. And basically that's done. So as I said, really easy but really delicious recipe. Okay, so now we have our bread, which we're just going to start putting together some sandwiches. And I'm going to put a little bit of cling wrap on the bench, because once I've made the sandwiches I'm actually going to put them in the fridge, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And this is a tip from my very good friend Dave, that is the master of ribbon sandwiches and so forth, and getting the crusts really neatly cut off. So I'm just going to pop some bread out on my board here, grab a knife, and I'm just going to start spooning some mixture on each one. Oops. Now the other thing you can do, which is quite a nice effect, is have one slice, oh look at me there, being a bit of a mess, one slice of brown bread, one slice of white bread. That adds another lovely colour effect to your high tea. Okay, so we pop that out and make sure, I can hear my mum in my head saying, make sure you spread to the corners, so we get a nice even spread. Pop a piece of bread on, and what we're actually going to do is we're going to pop those in the fridge, and it'll just make it easier when we come to cut the crusts off, that we won't have really jagged edges and the bread won't be too soft. If we just chill it a bit, it will harden up and make it much easier. So I'm going to continue with those and then come back for our next sandwich. Now our cucumber sandwiches are chilling in the fridge, so it's time to get on to our next sandwich. But before I do, I want to talk you through the different sandwiches that we're going to have as part of what I call our first course. So we'll have our cucumber sandwiches. We're also going to have some turkey sandwiches, which I'll talk you through in a minute. We're going to have some curried egg sandwiches so that we know our vegetarian is covered, because she does eat eggs, I have checked that. And we'll also have some chicken sandwiches, which my aunt is bringing. So with the high tea, if people offer to bring stuff, by all means accept their offer, because you don't want to kill yourself in the kitchen cooking and putting things together for hours, and then you're exhausted by the time the high tea comes. And it's nice to have people bring recipes that mean something to them and that they can share and tell stories about. So we're going to have our cucumber sandwiches, our turkey sandwiches, curried egg, chicken sandwiches, which my aunt is bringing, and some asparagus rolls, which my sister is bringing, which is a bit of a family staple for us. It's very 80s, but we love it. It's a bit of a joke. We're known for our asparagus rolls, so we're going to include those. Then for the next course, we'll have more savoury items. And I've gone out and bought some little mini quiches and little mini phyllo pastry rolls, because to be honest, not everyone has time to bake everything, so by all means outsource where you can. Another one of my friends is going to bring another savoury item, and my mum is bringing some little pikelets with cream cheese, smoked salmon and dill. So that'll be delicious. And then for the third course is our sweets. So I've got some little mini croissants I'm going to pop in the oven so they'll be nice and warm. We'll have some jam to spread on those. My sister's bringing some rumbles, which she's known for. My aunt is bringing a slice that is one of my nan's recipes, so it's lovely to include that in the day. And we're also going to have some fruit. High teas can be very filling and very rich, and it's nice to break that up with the freshness of fruit. So we're going to have some grapes that people can nibble on. We're going to have some strawberries dipped in chocolate. So it will really sort of cut through all the really heavy food that we've had and be a nice way to finish. So the turkey sandwiches, very easy. We're just going to, we've got some bread here. We're going to put some butter on one slice. We're going to put some cranberry sauce. I've got here, this is actually cranberry and caramelised red onion chutney, which will be delicious. Put that on the other side. We're going to pop some shaved turkey on here, and then some very thin slices of brie, a couple of bits of watercress, and there we have a delicious sandwich. So I'm going to get started on those, get them ready, pop them in the fridge to chill, and then I'll get started on our egg sandwiches. Is the curried egg, and I'm actually halving this recipe, so you can double it if you want a larger quantity, but I know we're going to have so much food, I don't want to make oodles and oodles and completely go overboard. So I'm just going to use 2 hard-boiled eggs. So we've boiled those, cooled them down and then peeled them. I've got 1 teaspoon of curry powder. I've got an eighth of a cup of mayonnaise. I've got some parsley, some butter and some watercress. So we're basically just going to mash up our egg to start with, and then start to mix everything through. So the good thing with this is you can boil the eggs the night before and then just easily assemble on the day. So we're going to pop in our curry powder. The other thing to think about is what the weather's going to be like. If it's a really hot day, the last thing people are probably going to feel like is hot food. So you'll either reduce the quantity or not serve hot food at all. Today it's a bit overcast, unfortunately, but it's sort of a mild 18 degrees Celsius. So it's nice that we'll have some cold and some hot treats in the high tea. Pop in our parsley. give that a mash. Really easy. You can get the kids to help with this. And really, you can serve any type of sandwich that you like. Have a bit of fun with it. Put a bit more parsley in. Okay, so we're done. So our mixture looks like that. Okay, so we've got our curried egg mixture ready. I'm going to spread butter on the bread. Then I'm going to pop some mixture, some watercress on top, piece of bread on top. Our sandwich is made. Pop it in the fridge to chill, and then we'll be ready to get on to our next part of the high tea. So we've got our sandwiches chilling, and we're going to get on to our flowers and our table arrangement. But before that, a little bit of trivia about the high tea. The tradition of the British high tea started in the mid-1700s and was a meal served between about 3 and 4 o'clock, and was actually for the working class, and it's called high tea because they were either standing or on high stools. Gradually it became more of a meal for the ladies and gentlemen of society, and actually served as a purpose because it meant they could have a substantial meal before they went to the theatre or the opera. So there's a little bit of history about the high tea. Originally would have been served with cakes and scones and even some toast, but obviously you can put your own variation on it, but you can impress your guests with that little bit of history. So before we get onto the flowers, another little tip I've got is that I'm notorious for over catering. Each time I hold an event I try and cut down on the food, but I'm just an over caterer. And at the end of the high tea, it's very likely that you'll have a lot of food left over. So what I like to do is have some noodle boxes like this, and we can actually fill it up with some of the leftovers, give it as a little goodie bag for your guests to take home, to their family, to their partners, or to have a little snack for dinner. So great little idea so that you're not left with all the leftovers that you couldn't possibly get through, but your guests can take something away from the day. So remember to have those noodle boxes. Now, with our flowers, because we're going to be sitting outside, it's probably about one of the last days of autumn that I'm going to be able to use the outdoor setting before it gets too cold. So I have a market umbrella, and the pole is quite ugly. So what I want to do is, I've got some gorgeous dahlias here, which I'm going to pop in 4 vases and put them around the centre of the table, so to hide the market umbrella pole at that sort of table height, and really give it some lovely colour and femininity to the table. Now I want 4 identical vases, and I want them to have quite a narrow head because I don't want the flowers to sort of spray out too much like that. I want to keep them quite tight. Now I don't have 4 identical vases, but what I do have is 4 drinking glasses. So I'm just going to use these as my vases, perfect for what I need. So just 4 drinking glasses will become my vases, and I will start to cut those flowers up now. Okay, so I've done 1 vase, and I want all the flowers to be a similar height. So what I just do is hold my glass up to where I want it to be, cut off the stems at the bottom there, always cutting on an angle, which will be better for the flower stems to absorb the water. Pull off any of the greenery that's going to be in the water because it does keep it quite murky, so we want to strip those stems down, cut them down so that I'll have 4 vases of the same height. So our flowers are done, and now we're going to move on to the next element of the table. So glassware, we'll have some champagne glasses, obviously, but I'm also going to have some glasses where we'll serve just a non-alcoholic drink because a lot of the guests will be driving, so we want to make sure there's a delicious alternative for them, and I'll talk you through that drink a little bit later on. But I've got these lovely glasses that were my dear Nan's glasses, and I was lucky enough to get these, but I only have 5 of them. So recently I bought at a flea market some other vintage glass, which isn't identical because I don't want to try and copy it, but I want to complement them, and I was able to get these. So if you can see, so what I'm going to do is have alternative ones of those around the table, which will be lovely. And for our high tea, we want to make it really elegant and very feminine and pretty, so it's important to have glassware that reflects that. The other thing we're going to have are these little cake forks, which I bought recently. They were on sale. I think they were down about 50%. So they're gold plated, and they've got a gorgeous little pattern on them. Not sure if you can see those, but I'll show you when we set the table. So we'll have those on the table. And we'll also have some place cards, and I've got these gorgeous little wooden blackboard easels, which you may have seen in some previous videos. So a packet of 3 of these for $2 at the local discount store. So we've just written each person's name on there. A tip is to wet the tip of the chalk when you're writing, and it just makes it much easier for you to write. These are great because you can also use these if you're wanting to have a smorgasbord or a buffet of food for a Christmas day or a big family gathering. You can actually write what each of the food is on these, and you've probably seen, if you've watched the Out and About at the Polo video, that we've actually used these to label our food. But today we're using them as table place cards. So there's my mum, Helen. I've written up everyone's name, and we'll pop those out on the table too. So next I'll talk you through the crockery and tableware that we'll be using. Now the next part I'm getting ready for the table is our crockery, and I haven't got to a stage where I've built up a large collection or have gorgeous bone china sets hanging around, but my mum does, and so she's come to the rescue, and I've borrowed some sets from her. Now it's okay if you don't have a full set, because I actually think it's nice to have a mix and match of crockery on the table because it brings it to life, it gives it some character. All of these cups and saucers remind me of watching my mum and my aunt and my nan sitting having cups of tea, so it really brings a bit of meaning to the table. So we've got some mix and match of some of her best cup and saucer sets. We've also got some gorgeous bread and butter plates as well, which we'll put out, which people will use. If you don't have these, that's okay, just some pretty crockery that you can use. If you've got your aunt or your nan or one of your friends has a beautiful set, why not borrow that or borrow pieces of it? And I've just started to collect lovely crockery as I see them at an op shop or if I see them at a flea market, so I can start to build up my own selection. So we're going to start to set those up and then get ready for the next part of the table. Now the most important thing of any high tea table is the gorgeous cake and sandwich stands that you'll use. I'm using these, which I bought at my local market for about $40 each. I've got 2 of them. So I'm going to put one on either end of the table. The great thing about these is that they actually come apart and you can store them flat packed. Just take that off, and then the bottom one screws off too, like that. And you can actually flat pack them back into their box. So really good because these things do take up a lot of space, but they are lovely to get out when it's time for the high tea. And they really add that, I say as I almost smashed the plate, don't do that. They really add a lovely element, and they're really pretty plates to have. So we'll put those back a little bit more carefully. Now if you don't have these cake stands or don't have access to them and not able to buy them, that's no worries at all, because there's lots of great alternatives that you can use, and you may have seen these in one of my recent videos. These are just flat packed cardboard cake stands. You can buy these for just a couple of dollars at your local store. The good thing is they're quite a solid cardboard and they can actually be wiped down, so you can use them over and over again. So you just put the stand together like that, then pop the large shelf on, then the next one, right, there we go, and then the top one. So that's just $2. So you don't need to spend a lot of money on your high tea. You're just using things you already have, or purchasing something like that, as I said, just for a couple of dollars. So we've got those elements done. I'm now going to set the table, and we'll come back to cut up our sandwiches and to get the rest of the high tea. Out of the fridge here, which we're going to cut up. Before that, I want to give you another tip with regards to flowers while I look at all these gorgeous flowers. don't forget when you're having a function that it's not just the area like the dining table or the courtyard where your guests will be, but they'll obviously use the bathroom as well. And I think it's always lovely to have some gorgeous flowers in there so that they can see that you've themed the whole house, and it just brings that lovely element to each of the rooms that they'll go into. Okay, so our sandwiches. So as I said, they've been chilling. This just means that when we cut them, we're not pressing down and we don't have really thin bread because we've butchered them with the knife. But we get the sandwiches out, and I've got an electric knife here, which I've actually borrowed one of our guests' electric knife, and it was actually her wedding present many years ago. So it's a bit of a vintage one, but it does work, and it'll just help us when we cut. So I'm going to get started on those. I'm then going to lay them out on a little tray here, put them back in the fridge for when we're ready for the guests to arrive. Turn it on. And there you can see beautifully cut edge. So I will keep going with my chainsaw here. It's a bit noisy, and get all those ready. Now cut as close to the edge as you can when you're cutting the crusts off, because you don't want to lose too much of the sandwich. And then you can choose to either cut your sandwiches in small triangles, or you might want them as ribbon sandwiches. Why not mix them up and have a variety of sandwiches on your table? So I'll keep chainsaw in here. Look at that, perfect little triangle sandwiches. Whoops, I didn't quite go all the way through there. There we go. So I think that looks gorgeous. I'm going to start popping these on the plate and then move on to the next ones. So we've finished all our cutting of our sandwiches. So I've done our cucumber sandwiches in little triangles, as well as our turkey sandwiches, and I've done our egg sandwiches in some ribbon, some long thin strips. So we'll have some different options on our high tea table. And we've also got the chicken sandwiches, which my aunt is bringing. So I'm going to put some cling wrap back on those and back in the fridge with the other sandwiches, just until before our guests arrive and I can start putting together the platters. Now, a couple of things else that I wanted to tell you about is drinks. So it's a high tea, so we will be having champagne. But as I mentioned earlier, most of our guests are driving, so we're not going to be serving too much of that. So we want some nice alternatives of drinks that are non-alcoholic. So I'm going to have a couple of jugs. I'm going to have one jug which I'm going to put some iced water and some ice blocks in, and some strawberries. And the flavour from those strawberries will just give a light hint in the water, which will be really refreshing. Another option you can do is fill your glass with some water or some soda water. And I've actually pureed down some watermelon and made them into ice blocks. I've had them in the freezer. And I'm actually going to put those ice blocks into the water. So it'll bring a lovely pink colour. And as the ice blocks melt, you'll start to get that watermelon flavour in the water. And another one I love, which is actually a Jamie Oliver one from one of his 30-minute meal recipes, is we'll fill the jug with ice. We'll then pour some soda water over it. We're going to squeeze in some pomegranate and also pop some mint leaves in. And once again, that'll be another refreshing non-alcoholic drink. So we'll have water with some strawberries in. We'll have some water with some watermelon ice blocks in, and we'll have some soda water and ice with some mint and pomegranate, and of course we'll have our champagne as well. I'm also going to serve a very small French aperitif, which it's not very English, but I'm just combining it into this because it is really nice. So just a very small amount of that when our guests arrive. It'll stimulate their appetites, and then we'll get stuck in to the meal. So I'm going to tidy up here. I'm going to get ready and be back with you when our guests